Everybody, welcome back inside another exciting episode of the Stash Report from the Stash Project. Today is July 15th, 2019. We have some kit announcements, we have a little kit preview tease, and we have this week's releases, which is just a few little things. Not a whole heck of a lot has come in yet. But be that as it may, let's plow into the news, shall we? Sure. All right, so I was looking over in one of my favorite Hong Kong vendors, one of my favorite China-based vendors, just trying to see what is coming in terms of the kits, from BMAX New, trying to get a jibe of whether or not they're really going to come out on time in Japan. And what I'm seeing is that there are now scheduled. Now these are subject to change and they're very fluid. In August, a release of the Brabham BT52B, which is the modified reissue of their Brabham BT52 tool. That'll have its own photo etch component, and that's towards the end of August. Also at the end of August is the Mitsubishi Starion and its photo etch. But again, I think that may, unless something changes, come out on time only because it is a JTCC car, right? It's two liveries that ran in the 1987 Japanese Touring Car Championship Series, and therefore I suspect it might get a Japanese release early, or ahead of everywhere else, just because that's where a lot of those are going to sell, obviously. Now, there's crazy, Americans like me who love our JTCC stuff as well as around the world, but it's a Japanese touring car championship. Japanese people are going to want to buy them, so they're going to probably end up coming out early. Last time I checked Aoshima's, Japanese website, it was still scheduled for July. My basis of saying it'll come out early is that when the Toyota Corona came out, the JTCC four-door car from 1994, that came out in Japan several weeks before it was released in China, or just was shipped ahead of time and released early, whatever the case may be with that. But that Japanese specific kit came out in Japan before it did elsewhere, so we'll keep an eye on that. And the other thing that's supposed to be an early August release, and I'll be interested to see if this is something that they're going to do globally or if this is going to be a Chinese market kit, is that they're going to do another issue of their BMW M6 with the 2018 Macau FIA GT Championship car that was driven by Gustos Farfus. It's in a special commemorative boxing for Charlie Lamb, who was the BMW team principal for many, many decades. I think it was something like close to 40 years he was in charge of BMW's racing programs. He passed away right after Macau, which is why, again, you've seen a lot of, R.I.P. Charlie, thanks Charlie, things that have been on a lot of BMW race cars this year. It's a very cool box. It looks like it's their sort of 3D prototyping, or their 3D design drawings over the car. I have the decals to do this car already. They were done by Frankie over at SK. Actually, Frankie at SK is providing the decals to new BMAX to do this kit. So I don't know how wide a release it's going to get. If that may be one of those things that if you want one, you may want to grab it out of Hong Kong, because again, we'll see if it's going to be released globally. And then there is a release for the end of July for the Toyota Carina, which is the British Touring Car Championship version of the Corona. It's going to have a flip drive. I want to say it's going to have a left-hand drive dashboard, but I don't think it is. It may have a right-hand drive dashboard too. But then again, I think it does have a left-hand drive. I have to look at the things, because it's one of those things where it's like British touring car, but I think the Carina was sold also as a left-hand drive car in Europe. And the whole point of the way the chassis and the interior pan are engineered, it's designed so they can flip-flop you could flip-flop rather the thing to left-hand or right-hand drive just by drilling different holes out in the chassis pan. So I can't remember how that car sits in real life. It seems like it should be a right-hand drive too, because it's British. But be that as it may, that's not up for pre-order anywhere in Japan as of yet. And if it's going to be a July release, yeah, well, they've got about 14 days to figure that out. I haven't seen anything on Aoshima's website about this, so this may be a kit that doesn't come out in July. It's just being put there, and we'll see where it ends up falling. But that's something to keep an eye on if you want those cars. Obviously, JTCC is a little, I mean, even if it's the championship car that they released, it's a little more obscure. I know there's a lot more fans of European racing out there that want the BTCC car. They've been asking Frankie to do decals for the BTCC car pretty much since the Corona came out. So we shall see where that goes. So that is that part. And then we have Hasegawa's announcements for September. A lot of these things are going to be straight reissues, just sort of refilling the coffers, as it were. And then there's a few new things here. So the straight reissues, you're going to get a reissue of the Isuzu Gemini ZZ. That's the Tuned by Lotus version of that kit. And then the Nissan Bluebird in its 1970 winning Safari Rally guys. The Nissan 240Z in its 1971 Safari winning guys. So yes, Nissan, for people who don't know and haven't watched this channel a lot, because these kits get reissued like once a year or so. The Nissan 240Z did, in fact, win a rally in Africa, which would be the Kenya Safari Rally at this point. And so did the Nissan Bluebird, back-to-back years. The 240Z was actually the rally platform for Nissan for several years after 1971. But those are both championship winning cars, however you look at it. They're going to reissue their Lancer Evo 6 in its 1999 New Zealand Safari. Well, I don't know. You could guys tell me. Maybe New Zealand has a Safari, but be that as it may, it's the New Zealand Rally. It is the championship car for that, the winning car. They're going to reissue their 124 scale 1965 Italian Grand Prix version of the Honda RA272E F1 car, the historic F1 car, and then a reissue of their 124 scale Cygnus Tunen, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that somewhere even remotely correctly, Lola 9050, which is a 1990 season Formula 3000 car. I meant to, but I didn't look that up to see if that is a reissue, if that's new decals for that. It's not a design that pops into my head as something I've seen when I've looked at these kits as they started releasing them. They're going to reissue their Taka Q sponsored Toyota 88C Le Mans car. That's for the 1988 24 Hours of Le Mans. That is a reissue. That livery has existed. And then two kits that are getting new decals, if nothing else. They're going to reissue their Lancia 037. And there's a very wild story about this car in general. If you want to do the research on your own time, I'm not going to do a history lesson here. But it's for the 1994 Japanese Grand Touring Car Championship. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, wait a minute, that's not a rally. Yes, you're correct. The Cliff Notes 2-second bio here is somewhere along the lines, this team, I think it was Rosso Competition, out of Italy, got a hold of one of the 1986 rally cars after the, so I don't know when after the season, but after the season, obviously. And then 8 years later decided, hey, we want to tour this rally car. Now, the rally car wasn't designed for touring. It wasn't designed to be run at high RPM for sustained amounts of time. And it certainly wasn't designed to have 18-inch slicked wheels on all four corners. But it did race it in one race in 1994 at the Fuji Speedway. It finished 9th out of 12 cars, and it only finished 9th because of attrition, really. But still, it's a very, very interesting story. Like I said, to if you want to do more in-depth research, there's quite a bit of information. I was going to say it's not really voluminous information. Like there's no real like background to it, but there's a bunch of articles about it. Now, the unfortunate part of that is that the car appears to be riding on something that looked like Work of Motion 3-piece wheels. They didn't convert it to a center lock. It still had lug nuts. But Hasegawa has said that box image different from contents, meaning that they did not actually tool up the wheels for this car. It's just going to be their rally kit tossed with some new decals involved. And that also is a problem because the Hasegawa 037 Lancia is a gravel rally setup. It's not a tarmac setup, so it's also going to be ride substantially higher than it needs to. You may drop the ride height a little bit just by the nature of putting 18-inch wheels into a car that runs on 16-inch wheels, but this is what it's much like when Hasegawa reissued the Jaguar. The Jaguar. Where am I? Here I am. Here, the Jaguar. They in the 1982 ETCC livery. They didn't tool up new wheels for it. They just put the 84 wheels in it, which are not anywhere near being correct. So then the other thing that's going to be reissued with the new livery is the 5 Zenjin AE 101 Corolla. Now this is a 1993 Japanese touring car. It is based on the same AE 101 Corolla that they've done like 4 or 5 kits of at this point. This is just new decals. The car does run, at least in the picture, a different set of wheels than are available in either of the Levin kits as it stands right now. So I'm going to guess again, this is not going to have the correct wheels included. I'm not exactly sure what these wheels are. I haven't really sat down to look to see if they're like available through the aftermarket. But the 5 Zenjin team did run a full slate of races in 1993. They actually won the Class 3 Division 3 race at oh crap, I can't think what the racetrack is now, but they did win one round. So I mean, it is a podium car. It is significant in that sense, and I'm always happy to plug another hole in my JTCC collection. So there is that. If you guys are interested, it's just annoying when they don't. I mean, I get why they do that. New decals. It doesn't cost that much to drop new decals. You have to drop a new instruction manual, but really you're just copying the one that exists and adding new color callouts or putting a new decal design board in behind it. So I don't know. I mean, it's very profitable to them. They'll sell a ton, but for accurate builders, people who really want to, especially for that JTCC Lancia, because it's such a wild one-off car. And I guess that's why you wouldn't put new wheels in it, because they'd have one purpose in life, but still. It is what it is. You can't really help it. So anyway, over to the tees this week. Belk Kits put out their some early 3D design. It looks a kind of bulbous and lumpy in places, which isn't necessarily reflective of the car design itself. It's just the 3D wiring program that they're using. It's one of the ones that I've seen where your round parts are represented by octagons or hexagons, and it's just the way the program draws circles. So that being said, this is their upcoming Metro SR4 Group B rally car. So we're getting to see sort of the whole design here. Again, like I said, the puffiness, the weirdness, don't really put too much stock in that. It's just a design concept, and it's just the way they're, these almost look like they're screen captures of the actual program rather than being like a rendered, image at the end. But be that as may, so you got a front shot, you got a rear shot. There's a photo here of what the undercarriage is going to look like. See, it's going to be a full detail kit already. And then you have a couple pictures of the interior, and you can see the engine back there waiting to be revealed. And then there is the shot of the engine. And again, the air cleaners are circular, the bolts and the things are circular. It's just, again, like, don't put too much stock in the fact that, like, oh my god, Belkis drew everything as a geometric shape. It's just the nature of that 3D program that they're using. Doesn't look fantastic to us, but it'll be round when it shows up. But again, we knew that was going to be a full detail kit, but there's confirmation for people, because for some reason, the haters, if you will, love to argue about stuff like that. Well, I hope it has an engine. Well, it has an engine. Oh, I hope so. All right. There. Now it has an engine. You happy? No, of course not. It's a foreign car. It's a foreign kit. Now it's too expensive. So, we got the releases this week. Just a couple things. A couple of reissues here, and then one modified. So your reissues out of Aoshima are this. You got the Hakasuka Works, Liberty Walk, Liberty Works, two-door. This is one of the first kits that came out. So the 1968-ish Nissan Skyline body. And then you have the Nissan Laurel, Laurel Works as they call it, but it's the Liberty Walk, Liberty Work Laurel. So that's coming. That's got another reissue. And then also in the reissues, we have this. It is the Liberty Walk, Liberty Works Nissan GTR, the R35. This is the version 1 Type 1 kit, the original OG of the Liberty Walk R34 kit. So that got a reissue. Over Hasegawa, you got a reissue of this. It is the Honda Civic Ferio. So this is the obviously the non-race version, just your vanilla sedan, as it were. So that gets another run out there. For a long time, these kits were very expensive, and now I guess they're selling them in enough quantity that they have to keep reissuing them. So irony to Hasegawa, maybe you should have kept reissuing that kit all along, and you would have made money for the last 10 years instead of waiting that time. And then you have this, which is the modified reissue of the Tamiya AMG GT3 kit. This is, of course, the Leon Zvestos AMG, the Super GT 2018 GT300 class, which is GT3. This has a new livery to it, and then it has the new wheels that you see there on the box art. That's pretty much it. I don't believe there, from looking at the parts contents, from seeing a couple of kit reviews of it done already, mine is actually on the way. Actually, it's at the post office. I need to go grab it. There are no other parts that have been tooled up for this. It is just the Super GT specific rims that they ran over there. And then decals are by Cartograph. The decals look fantastic. They seem to be, reasonably broken up as far as like how to put them on there. They're not. It's a very imposing looking livery, but it breaks up in a way that I would consider to be sensible. I think the biggest challenge you have with this is on all AMG GT3s, you have this cavity back here where that vent for the rear brake coolers go, and when you put the part in there, you have to smooth the outside of the bodywork to make it uniform, because on the real car there's no actual gap there. It's just part of the bodywork, because the both rear fenders, the clock face that goes over the rear fender sort of goes over that area, and if you have a gap there, it'll make the decal sit funny. But be that as it may, otherwise, it looks like a pretty nice kit. I mean, the AMG GT3 kit is fantastic. That one that I have that I just showed you is mocked up for decal fitting for the decals that I'm designing, and it fell together putting it together so well that I almost stopped doing the decal designing I was doing and just built the kit all together. So another opportunity to have that. This kit is a little more expensive than your regular AMG by about $5 or $7. Mainly because not only did they pay AMG or Mercedes licensing, they also had to pay Super GT licensing, which is why you don't see a whole heck of a lot of Super GT kits in the first place, or Super GT decals, because if you want to sell something that is Super GT related in Japan, it has to be approved by Super GT. You have to pay the licensing fee. Racing Decals 43 found that out the hard way when they when he did a set of decals for the BMW Z4 Fujimi kit for one of the Super GT cars. Very cool design, very cool livery in its own right, but he could not sell those decals in Japan. He sells the rest of his product line in Japan, but not that set of decals, because it wasn't approved to be sold in Japan, because it wasn't a licensed product. It's one of those things like, well, just create them and sell them on eBay or whatever, and that's true. However, the most audience you would get would be putting them into actual Japanese retailers, as far as the big like Hobby Search and Hobby Link Japan. Hobby Link Japan has a Japanese side of their website that sells domestically. We don't see it because it's two different websites. But if you want to sell a Super GT livery, it's going to, again, much like the Mitsubishi Stereo, it's going to sell better in the country of origin than of the race series than it is anywhere else. So it's one of those have or have not things. You could have the decals and then not really sell them to the market that's going to buy them, or not do them at all and find some other project that you can do. So anyway, guys, that wraps this one up. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope everybody had a great weekend, and we'll see you guys on the other side.